Hi again, everyone. I'm Ollie Matthews. This is the Narcissistic Resistance, and this resistance video is a sponsored video sponsored by John for Jody. And here is Jody's story. Hi, Ollie. First, I want to thank John for his generous contribution to be able to continue my life story. It was very unexpected, but very much appreciated. Just thank you from the bottom of my heart. You are a very kind, generous, kind man, John. Now, on to my story. As I mentioned in my last email, I'm going to talk about the relationships that got sabotaged by my mother, i.e., Shirley, and mix in a few fun facts when it came to her own relationships with men and my interactions and experiences with them. I was 17 years of age and working. I got along very well with a guy at work who was 21. We could hold long conversations and I remember us joking around, laughing and all the fun stuff that makes liking a guy and being a teenager fun. I told him I liked him at work through a colleague of mine, as I was too anxious and shy to tell him exactly how I felt myself. Not long after the colleague gave the news, he came over to me and proceeded to ask me out for dinner. I accepted and was excited at the prospect of spending some time with him outside of work, some time alone, you know. Ironically, I went and picked out something special to wear to the restaurant with my mother, Shirley. It took a while, but I found what I wanted, and my mother said it looked good on me, along with the shoes I bought. I was happy with the outcome, too. Ironically, again, my mother dropped me off to his house, as I didn't have my license at this point, and I went inside after seeing her off and waited for a taxi with him, as he didn't have his license either. After the date was over, we decided that it went well, so we went well. We wanted to see each other again, and we did on a few occasions. Skipping ahead to the last time I ever saw him, he asked me if he could come visit me where I lived. I, of course, agreed, and on one day over the weekend, when we didn't have work, he came up to see me. Unfortunately, at the time, I shared a bedroom with my younger sister, who at this point in time I haven't mentioned, as she is from a different father to brother and I. So yeah, it was difficult to spend time alone, as it wasn't a big house and not too many rooms to go to alone. So I went into my bedroom with him and closed the door. Next minute, my sister, who was only 7 at the time, comes barging into the room. It set Michael off, which I know was wrong, to the point of telling my sister to fuck off. That ain't right. And you're 21, you're 17 and he's 21. Is borderline right there. Well, it was enough for my sister to then proceeded to leave the room and tattle on him and I. He told me to fuck off, she said to my mom. The next minute, my mom comes in and told me to tell him to go home. I was begging and pleading for him to be able to stay, but she wouldn't have it. I had to see him off. He wasn't too happy either, as you can imagine. Neither was I, especially after he not long got there and then had to bus and train it all the way home again. I'm having a hard time feeling bad for him, because it's your sister's room and he's some guy who's barely there telling her to fuck off. I'd have done the same thing, to be honest with you. You gotta respect other people's homes. I'm not making excuses for him using foul language at my sis, and looking back on it, it wasn't the right reaction for him to have, but there was no room for apologies. I wouldn't let him apologize on that. If some 21-year-old guy is in the bedroom with my 17-year-old daughter, and a 7-year-old comes into the room that is her room as well, and he's like, first thing is fuck off, like, no. No, there's no apology. I'm sorry, there's no apologizing for that. He gotta go. It was just go home, and now, Jody, you are punished for what he said. And boy, I was really punished not too long after. I never saw him again, and looking back on it all now, I know what kind of manipulative woman Shirley is. I wouldn't be surprised if she sent my sister in deliberately to cause a scene and let it go whichever way it went to sabotage the relationship. Listen, she may have sent her in there, but you got a 21-year-old and a 17-year-old in your mother's house with the door closed? Come on, man. You got to have some respect on the same level. I don't think your mother's wrong on this one. She may be a narcissist, but she ain't wrong on this one. And boy, I was really okay. I can't say for sure, but it's quite possible. I went to work the following Monday after that week, and I looked around the store for him and couldn't find him. I wanted to tell him that I didn't care what my mom said. I wanted to still see him. It must have been that typical teenage rebellion to some degree on my part. Since I couldn't find him anywhere, I thought maybe he was sick that day, so I decided to sit in the lunchroom before having to go downstairs for work. I was sitting there at a table with some other colleagues and friends when a girl started talking about what happened to mention his name. My head pumped up and I asked, "What did you say?" She responded, "Did you hear Michael died?" Ooh. I couldn't control my emotions. I ran into the bathroom and bawled my eyes out. There goes that relationship. That's not your mother's fault, though. That's not your mother's fault. Like, if you're... After Michael's death, I still worked at the same place. I kept myself in the dating department for quite a while until friends of mine were encouraged me to date again. I said I couldn't bear the thought of that, but after a while they convinced me to go out on a date again. That relationship didn't last or wasn't very memorable as much as Michael was, and it ended only a few short weeks later. But then I found myself getting along with another guy who I shall keep anonymous by calling him S. During the time S and I started dating, we became physical with each other as well. I lost my virginity to him and him to me. He wasn't as old as Michael was. He was only a year older than me. We were still young, me 18-ish, him 19-ish, still somewhat immature though and still progressing toward adulthood. Well, I used to receive these private, intimate little notes from him and kept them somewhere I thought were well hidden. They were not. Shirley found them, and one day she confronted me about them, something that wasn't any of her business. I certainly didn't snoop around in her personal business and was shocked when she was standing in front of me with them in her hand. She proceeded to read some of them out to me. I was embarrassed. She says, "Is this the kind of boy you want to see?" I say, yes. I was an adult, being 18, and didn't think I had to justify anything to her. I paid rent, got myself to and from work, paid my way as an adult, though thought I had the right to see who I wanted. She said, "Come on, we're going to burn them," and then proceeded to light a fire and made me watch as she burned them. I wasn't going to participate in doing something she wanted to do. If I hadn't resisted, I probably would have paid the consequences of a different kind. Again, I was begging and pleading for her not to do it, but she did it anyway. She didn't care. It wasn't her stuff or her relationship. It was another "fuck you, Jody," in your relationship. This was not the end of it, though. She forced me to break up with him. I felt anxious again, scared of the ramifications if I didn't do as I was told. I decided to yet again rebel against her, but I did it in a sneaky manner because she asked me where I was going. I had to lie to her, knowing full well I was going to see him. It only lasted about 3 times more, and the guilt got the better of me lying to her, and I ended up breaking it off with him for good yet again. It damaged the relationship for good. We were alienated from each other, even though we sometimes worked together. It was hard, but somehow I managed to get through those times. You're also 18 and he's 19 as well. I mean, it is possible she saw something that you weren't seeing. I never did anything wrong except keep some little love letters with some extra bits and pieces mentioned in them, and this was the punishment I deserved. I guess in her mind it was. It was totally fine for her to have a relationship with any man she wanted, though, namely my sister's father, who I call K. I wasn't allowed to dislike him, and as a side note to explain this, when I was younger and still in school around the age of 10 or older, I happened to mention to a friend my disliking for Kay. It was a big mistake as her mother and my mother were friends also. My so-called friend told her mother about it when I asked her not to tell anyone, and I got back to my mother's afterwards. My mom confronted me about it, and I was really shocked once again. Thinking why she was still here asking me this, I then remembered the conversation and literally sank. Shirley pretty much demanded that I make an effort to like him, which I did. I pretended so well. In the end, I gave up and just got along with him for the sake of my mother. That story for another time about the chronicles of Shirley and Kay saga. Another time in between a short breakup between my mom and Kay, but before my sister was born, she met a Canadian man named Bruce who insisted we call sauce ketchup. Oh, he insisted you call sauce ketchup. He had his own opinions about things and forced them onto us. Yeah, that's what Canadians do. I hated him. He would not say it's not sauce, it's ketchup. Boy, how that tone of voice still sits in my head to this day. Another memory of this asshole was when one time we spent at the beach. Beaches were supposed to be fun, I thought. Eating at the beach is supposed to be fun, I thought back then. Not so this day. I liked watermelon until that day. Unfortunately, I dropped my piece in the sand and he ordered me to go wash it in the salty beach water so that I could eat it. Shirley did nothing to help me get fresh water or defended me from that man. Just let it happen. The thought made me sick, but I had to eat it. You can't eat salt water. That'd make you sick. They even took a picture of me in my face holding the watermelon with a look of disgust in my face. I'd have just thrown it in the ocean. You should have just thrown it in the ocean. To commemorate the occasion, to this day, I don't eat watermelon. Thankfully, the affair, for lack of a better word, ended when my mom got back together with Kay because she found out she was pregnant with my sister. Therefore, I was only between the ages of 9 and 10 at the time. I will leave it there with regards to my own relationships. I tried to have and do some more another time and incorporate it with the Shirley K saga and all the dramas, trials, and tribulations that went along with it. So in conclusion for this email to you, Ollie, you can probably get a fair idea that the relationships with men and I don't mix well. Well, you're also mixing things from when you were a teenager to now. Okay? The problem is your mother was so fucked up and overbearing, you're never allowed to actually have normal teenage relationships. Never. Now, the thing with Michael telling your sister to fuck off, your mother was right to throw him out. I would have thrown him out. The fact that he died, like, you're not saying how he died. If he, like, it's not your fault. It's not your mother's fault. Your problem is you still haven't gotten to the point where you realize the relationships you have at 17 and 18 are completely different than the relationships you're supposed to be having into your adult years. What your mother did there with Michael, I think, was pretty normal. But because of all the other stuff, you see it as abnormal. And hence, screws up your relationships later on in life. You're not even realizing a 17-year-old shouldn't be behind closed doors with a 21-year-old in their mother's house when they share a room with their 8-year-old sister. They shouldn't be. Be it my mom's relationship or my own, as you pointed out, and I will say again, it stems from the alienation of my father by Shirley, my so-called mother. I even go so far to sabotage them for myself because you never saw what a normal relation. Here you are at 17 trying to have adult relationships instead of just dating and having fun. Because you never got to see what an adult relationship was like because your mother alienated you from your father a long time ago, which you figured out. Thanks again for reading some of my life story. Thanks again to John for contributing to this part of my life. You're awesome. Stay strong, everyone, and take care. Jody. All right. Look, Jody, like I said, what happened with Michael, that's normal. That sounds like normal parenting to me. I wouldn't let a 21-year-old who's dating my 17-year-old daughter locked in her room behind closed doors tell my 8-year-old to fuck off. No, I would have been like, you gotta go. You gotta go. The problem is because of the alienation, you didn't understand how to have a normal relationship, and you still don't, because you still haven't made the connection that the relationships you have as a teenager should have no bearing on relationships you have as an adult. But because of the alienation in your narcissistic mother, it does. So I hope that helps. Thank you, John, for sponsoring, and Jody for another story. I really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody watching. Please leave any opinions or advice in the comment section below. And again, if you want your story read on the channel, you have a topic you'd like me to cover, a narcissist you'd like to expose, you'd like to set up Skype, a phone call, have a private video made, or a Facebook live chat, or you'd like to sponsor a video like this for someone who needs help and can't afford it, or just make a contribution to the channel in general to keep it growing, supported, and successful, because this channel survives 100% on contributions from all of you. Without you, all of this goes away. So if you like what you see here and you want to see more videos like this, you know what to do with the PayPal and email links in the description box. Also, please like and share this video wherever you can. Subscribe to my channel if you haven't, and be sure to click the subscription bell to be notified of all my video uploads. I'm Ollie Matthews. This has been the Narcissistic Resistance.